Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel. We'll be right back with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel's tips for this week. But first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. They sponsor the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our regular podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the players and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to help bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, and go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You can also call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle and their video and analytics to help their teams play better. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs. And even the pros use Huddle to help their teams play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about how your program can be helped by Huddle, or how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their experts. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com, and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it provides schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms also helps your stakeholders with mobile accessibility, and it has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that go with having an athlete. Final Forms also helps with team communication, attendance, and even certification management for coaches. And for ADs, Final Forms helps with eligibility, with rosters, all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. And we want to thank Area Scouts. Area Scouts provides athletes ages 8 and up with state-of-the-art assessments and sport and movement-specific development programs for all skill levels in all sports. Area Scouts also provides a one-of-a-kind worldwide online platform emphasizing sport-specific performance while also focusing on overall athlete health and safety. And the best part, Area Scouts also works with youth, high school, and college coaches from across the country. Go to areascouts.com to enroll your athlete or team in the base assessment today. That's areascouts.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Time Out with Kaleb Stoppel. This is episode number 4, where we visit with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel, longtime athletic director in Kansas, and he shares his experience and his thoughts on how athletic directors can do a better job with themselves so they can do a better job for their coaches and their kids. So, Dr. Stoppel, okay, welcome back to Time Out. What do you got for us this week?
All right. Thanks, Jake. Hello, and hello, everyone listening. So this series, we've been talking a lot about mental health, strengthening one's own mental fitness. But really, we've been honing in on the common concept of simply kind of being aware and keeping our own mental needs in check and being okay with not being okay, and just how do we regulate all that. So this episode is really going to focus a lot on another resource, another way to kind of strengthen that mental fitness. And we're going to talk about you. Okay, we're going to look at the mirror and we're going to be selfish, and we're just going to say, hey, let's focus on me for a second here. And most importantly, we're going to talk about some tips for just creating time for ourselves, not family, not friends, but really what is it that we need to do for ourselves to keep ourselves sharp, or even just take care of ourselves. All right. So let's dive into this. I know that we probably all have things we enjoy. We have things that, when we have a second to ourselves, or maybe that's a pastime, and whether you have family, obligation, kids, or you have, we have lots of things we do in life, right? And there's never enough time in the world. But when we truly can take time out of our day for ourselves, what is that just most favorite thing you could do? If time wasn't, a concept to keep us away from that, maybe even money wasn't a constraint, what's something you could do if you just had a night on the town? But that's the question we're after. Okay. So some tips for that. Okay. And really I can share some of my own experiences is finding something that you truly enjoy, and there's no wrong answers. All right. Reading. Okay. Some folks love to read professionally. Some folks love to read a good novel. But when was the last time you did pick up a book? And sometimes I bet a lot of us as leaders, we're always trying to sharpen our tool, our professional tool. So we're reading good leadership books. We're reading a lot of great athletic administrator books that are out there right now. Can think of some, and, reach out to a great author, Jake Von Sheer, if you have a second here. But there's a lot of great stuff popping up there professionally. But quite honestly, too, maybe that's not something that you do if you truly have an evening off, an evening to spare. And honestly, maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I love to read, but I don't love to read on my own. Maybe it's going to a movie. I know that's mine. If I have a second to spare and a night off, and, family obligations are kind of in check. And here's something I'll throw in there. This doesn't have to be an afterthought because all the other things are taken care of. There are many a time that I have resorted to this where I need a break. And that's been my outlet, is to just go to a movie by myself. Some people think that's super weird. Some people think that's super like scary to go to something like a movie by yourself. I love it. I love it. And so that's my happy place. okay, that I can do selfishly for myself. I can kind of, press pause on some family stuff, some home stuff, and I can work that, out at home to make sure that that's still, I'm going to come back to a good situation that I didn't just walk away on. Um, some folks maybe don't like a lot of me time, and their happy place is with others, and that's okay too, because that's why we have friendships, that's why we have networks. And maybe again, I'm preaching to the choir on something here. um, Many of you, probably a lot of your personal networks are the same as your professional networks. We have a really cool fraternity of athletic administrators, whether it's locally, on the state level, on the national, on the international level. And that's okay for some of your me time to want to be spent around others, maybe even others that you spend a lot of the normal 8 to 5 time with as well. So the point is that first step is to identify, boy, if I could give myself permission to go do something that I want to do. And there's no excuses. There's no, well, but that might not work because, so get all that out of the way. What would be those things that you would want to spend your time on? And that's the first question that you need to tackle. Okay. Um, we're going to take a quick pause there because I want to focus on the second half of that. All right. So let's kind of just pause that. And what would be those things as we kind of go to break? What would be those things that maybe you haven't done in a while? Some things that you really enjoy, or you're like, hey, every Friday I go and see some of my friends, or I go to a movie. Okay, that's awesome. So grab onto that for a second, hang tight, and then after a short break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how we can sustain that, how we can maybe make that a healthy habit.
Again, as you were sharing, I couldn't help but let my mind wander back to my wife and I. And again, I'm career teacher, coach, AD, 41 years. My wife also taught and coached for that time, a Hall of Fame career of her own. But it took us a while to figure out that we each had different ways that we wound down, and we did that downtime, that me time. And it's two both completely different ways we couldn't understand for a while. How can that be relaxing? Or but again, I don't want to ruin your segment here. For our listeners, this is Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel. We are going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with some more wisdom. Please stay with us. Once again, this is Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of Time Out. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your school by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also gives the 95% of the players and the parents who really love your program a voice, and it helps demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel. Doc, you were talking earlier about, how it's so important for us to find those activities that allow us to wind down and, take that break and recharge. What do you have for us here in part two?
Yeah. So before we talked a lot about the things you can do outside of your job. So, the workday gets done. How are you going to take some time for yourself versus the other things you might feel obligated to do, whether it's life stuff, running errands, getting groceries, having family time. And, we talked about just a couple of different examples, but of course, there's some other examples that I'll just kind of rattle off, being physically active, exercising, going for jogs, doing some selfish things like just going out on a walk or a jog. We talked about reading, we talked about, having some events you go to, but maybe it's also not just movies, but maybe it's sporting events still. Maybe even though sports is your profession, sports is also a personal connection, likely, with people like us in this role. But I want to kind of shift just a second here. What about creating time for yourself during the 8 to 5? Okay, because that's kind of important too. And it's not exactly breaking the rules, because as long as we are able to complete our tasks and put out the fires that come up and do our job, there's also trust that should come from others that we work with and work for, that should allow us some autonomy to do it our way. And I hope that you all give yourself enough grace in your job to know that there's times when probably you need to put the pedal to the metal, and you need to put all of your energy and your passion and your attention into something. And then there's also hopefully a reality that understands you can't sustain that all day, every minute of every day for the whole week. So what I'm saying is this: how do we find some timeouts during the day that we can close our door physically? Yes, that is a great step. Close your door. Okay, doesn't mean you're closed off, doesn't mean you're not accessible, you're not being present. It just means you need a second. And sometimes, even if it's just a quiet moment, that you have to do whatever you want. This conversation has reminded me of several workshops that I've attended, whether at the the KIAAA, the Kansas AD Association workshop level, or even the National Athletic Director Conference, that talked about this same concept about balancing work life. And so many times I've heard other ADs give similar tips. And I started practicing those, to the best of my ability in how it worked in my environment. And it helps, closing that door, giving yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes of possibly uninterrupted time that maybe you do, you have that magazine on your desk that's, maybe it's an AD magazine, maybe it's the local newspaper, or, going to the local news website. Maybe it's just cruising through something that's kind of some mindless information that's different than the information work you do on the daily seconds of your job. Maybe it is a book you have that you pull out and you read a couple. So maybe it's just listening to music for 5 minutes, or maybe it's just silence, and maybe it's just you allowing yourself to look out your window if you can. But what are those moments? Oh, or you don't have to be just tied down to your office. What about just getting out of your office? And hopefully this is something that we as leaders do anyway. If you're out of the classroom, if you're in the classroom, you have to kind of work with your schedule. But maybe it's not just closing your door and secluding yourself to silence, but maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's pushing pause on your work. It's getting out of your office. It's walking down the hallways. It's putting your head into a classroom for something of just a change of scenery, and maybe just to getting to see some kids. But find time, be selfish, and remember this might be the biggest takeaway of this kind of segment, is the checked boxes will always be there when you come back tomorrow. Okay. And again, if you are really a go-getter and you are someone that likes to have everything checked off at the end of the day, then more power to you. And that if it works for you, great, get after it. But in my experience, and a lot of words of wisdom from others, is that is really hard, really challenging, and it's not sustainable. So the more that we can get in the attitude of accepting that, hey, there's always going to be stuff on my to-do, there's always going to be boxes that need to be checked. And sometimes I need to kind of regulate some timeouts when I can and take a break. So So remember, folks, to kind of sum this up real quick, take time for yourself. And whether that's, taking a little bit of time outside of your work, outside of your maybe, family obligations or errands, press pause and do something for yourself. Do something you just truly enjoy. Okay. And maybe even make a habit of it. Maybe you say, like, on the calendar, hey, every couple of weeks, I'm going to go to a movie, or I'm going to go shoot some golf balls. I'm going to go do XYZ. And the other side of that is to also find those scheduled opportunities within your workday. Even if it's just shutting your door and telling your administrative assistant or others you work with that, hey, when my door's shut, it means I'm just taking 5 minutes. So I'm going to respect that a little bit. Or maybe it's just getting out and about into the hallways. But find time, you deserve it. And I promise it's going to pay off in the long run.
No, and again, it's so very important. The job is the job, and that allows us to have, the life that we choose. But you can't do your job right if you're not taking care of yourself. Just so very important. Kaleb, as always, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so best way is to shoot me a quick email, and I'll be sure to get back to you. My email address is KSTOPPEL at USD259.net.
Okay. Kaleb Stoppel, we visit with him every Tuesday on Timeout as part of the Educational AD podcast. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Our regular listeners know this. Every single episode is uploaded to our YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next Tuesday for more Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel, and just about every day on the Educational AD podcast. We'll see you next time. We also want to thank Huddle for their support of the Educational AD podcast and Time Out. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams are using Huddle to help their teams play better using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs. And even the pros use Huddle to help their athletes perform at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million individual users, including your student athletes and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit them. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen consoles and a library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments by going to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You can also call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every season and also create the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Area Scouts. Area Scouts provides athletes ages 8 and up with state-of-the-art assessments and sport and movement-specific development programs for all skill levels in all sports. Area Scouts also provides a one-of-a-kind worldwide online platform emphasizing sport-specific performance while focusing on overall athlete health and safety. And the best part, Area Scouts also works with youth, high school, and college coaches from across the country. Go to areascouts.com to enroll your athlete or your team in the base assessment today. That's areascouts.com. And finally, we want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it provides schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms helps your stakeholders with mobile accessibility. It has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that go with athletics. Final Forms also helps with team communication and attendance, and even certification management for coaches. And for ADs, Final Forms helps with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation, and it has ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode of Time Out with Dr. Kaleb Stoppel. We'll be back next Tuesday with more wisdom from Kaleb and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks again.